Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's live stream, I am going to be saying subscribe because I am very close to hitting 1,300 subscribers, and if I could do that by the end of the day or by the end of the amazing. Further ado, I am going to begin. So, subscribe, subscribe. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Subscribe, 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 Jesus Christ, this is becoming very difficult to say. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Okay, so it feels as though today I am going to be very much testing my stamina when it comes to saying the single word. I've only said it 50 times so far. I intend to say it 1,000 times, and it is very challenging to say it without mixing up the syllables. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Okay, my cat is over here, behind my laptop screen. She doesn't seem to be too annoyed by what I'm doing. However, I'm already annoying myself. There aren't any viewers at the moment, and with almost 1,300 subscribers, I thought that somebody would at least tune in to say hi in the comment section. This live stream is set to be um, public, so anybody who is on YouTube right now should be able to come and say hi, and that would be fantastic. I mean, I'm not sure whether there is a better time to create a live stream. There probably is, but it being a Saturday, I thought it would be a good time and place to make one of these, because I am going to be very busy next week and probably won't be able to upload as much as I usually do. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. That is 100 times. I think it is way easier for the... Oh, hi, we have a viewer over here. Good morning. I think it is way easier to count to 1,000 rather than to say the same word 1,000 times, and he's gone. Fantastic. Then to say the same word 1,000 times, and I even saw a person on TikTok who at the moment is counting to 1,000,000, which is extremely impressive. So I am 100 words through, 900 to go, and hopefully my parents don't come anytime soon to ruin the stream, because I have no doors down here and therefore absolutely no privacy. And there are a lot of roadworks going on where I'm from, and it is extremely noisy as well. Horrible all around to create a live stream for you guys. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. At this point, the word has lost all meaning to me, and although I value the people watching my live stream, it is crazy to think about this word losing all meaning, because it is perhaps the most important thing when you have a YouTube channel. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Okay, so this is almost as horrible as it was when I was making the Mr. Beast 800 subscriber special, in terms of saying the same thing over and over again. It is very complicated to do so, and you should give it a go. Try to say the same word, pick any word you like, try to say it 50 times in a row, and you'll see how you'll be able to mess it up regardless of how familiar you are with the word. I literally say subscribe about 50 times a day without intending to, it's always a part of conversation when I'm talking about the YouTube platform. 150 words there, 850 to go. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. You should subscribe, 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 subscribe. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. This is becoming more difficult the further along it goes. Oh, hi, we have another person. I'm not sure whether it is the same person or not. Please make sure to say hi in the comment section. It will make for a great environment this morning. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Okay, 200 words there. We are 20% of the way, and he is gone again. 200 words there, 20% of the way there so far. It is funny how I can see myself going live on my other channel on my laptop at the moment. Okay. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. I think my cat is also growing annoying at this. She is absolutely twitching her ears at the moment. And it took me 7 minutes to say this 225 times. And I am absolutely parched at the moment from saying the same thing over again. I don't even think there's been a day when I spoke as much as I have today. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. I'm even in doubt as to whether I am saying the word correctly or not. It is so weird, sounding so alien to me from saying it so many times, but we are a fourth of the way through. Okay. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. I'm not sure as to whether there's anyone who is actually keeping this, and I'm not sure whether I said it 275 times, perhaps more, perhaps less, but if there's somebody who is devoted enough to my channel to make sure that I am keeping count properly, please go ahead and do so. Okay. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Okay, 300 words there. I am feeling a bit masochistic today. I'm not sure whether this was my intention at the beginning of the stream or not, but it sure feels that way now that I'm almost 10 minutes into the stream. Okay, 700 to go. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Okay, one more thing I have to mention is that for every subscriber I actually get, lose all the excess fat or weight I to see whether there's anyone who has subscribed by switching my account on my laptop. There's nobody watching at the moment, and it's quite embarrassing actually because I am hoping to get as many viewers as possible with close to 1,300 subscribers. Okay, I have a comment on one of my YouTube shorts, which I am going to reply to very quickly. Oh, hello there, another viewer. Please make sure to comment below, let me know what you think. And he left already. That's disappointing. At least, if there's they should definitely leave a like to help me with the views on YouTube and the algorithm. Okay.